Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Russell is back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. And obviously, as you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, I have a special guest with me today. Ryan Ward, Lakers reporter from Lakers Nation, also has his own podcast on the Believe podcast network as well, covering the Lakers throughout the season. And you may be wondering why he's here. Well, we play the Lakers up next this Friday, so I wanted to preview the game with him. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm depressed. I'm very depressed.
Yes. If
one
anybody,
blowout after another for us, man.
Yes, after
pretty
the massacre in Miami.
Yeah, 41 points.
41,
after getting beat by 29, like the game previous. It feels like a sinking ship at the moment.
Yeah, it's Lakers have not been playing well right now going into Friday. Well, obviously on the Hawks side, we're on a 5-game winning streak. And so vibes are high. Okay. Everybody's happy. Everybody's excited. So it looks like two teams going in two different directions, right?
Right.
But both teams still do have a winning record at the same time. And, Lakers and Hawks, I think, obviously, the past couple of years have been interesting, connections for trade rumors, DeJounte, Trey, things like that. Now that's died down. That doesn't seem to be a discussion anymore. Teams seem to be where they are right now. And Ryan, obviously, like we just mentioned, Lakers not playing good basketball right now. JJ Redick coming out after the game saying he has to, talk to the guys, talk to the coaches, and try to keep this from spiraling out of control. But at the same time, I'm a little nervous about this game because this is a better matchup overall for the Lakers. I think AD especially, he's been bad the last couple of games. Mm-hmm. This is a better matchup for him as the Hawks don't really have a lot of bigs in this matchup. But the number one thing I just want to ask you is when you've watched this team, what is the number one thing has been the biggest issue and why they've looked so bad?
It feels like at one point they looked really good. They looked fluid. They looked like they were all bought in with whatever JJ's philosophy is. And then it just once Denver hit, and Denver, because I said this on my pod like a number of times before it happened. There was that stretch in the schedule where it was like they're going to play Orlando, Denver, Phoenix, San Antonio, and then OKC. And I was like, this is going to be a gauntlet, and this is going to be kind of the measuring stick for where the Lakers actually are, right? Because they were coming off a 6-game win streak. They looked great, but they were playing against all bad teams. Mm-hmm. It was teams that they should beat. So I was like, well, that doesn't matter if you can't beat the teams that you're going to be competing against in the playoffs if you make it. And then Denver just spanked them. I mean, it was embarrassing, kind of spanking. And it just gave every Lakers fan the reminder of the playoffs and just Denver just beating the crap out of them the last couple of years. And even JJ said oh, this is probably an aberration, right? That was his word, aberration. And then after the game, what was the game before last? Who did they get beat by 29? Oh, these are all bleeding together now.
You said all the blowouts are leading together. Minnesota,
yeah. And then he said after Minnesota's loss, he's like, that probably wasn't an aberration. and then he gets beat by 41 last night, and I'm like, yeah, totally. It's not an aberration. This is who you are. They seem lost on defense, especially. I mean, just waking up this morning and seeing all the breakdowns of the defense from last night is pathetic. It's like they weren't even putting any kind of effort out there. They keep doing these things where they switch, but it's almost like the opposing team wants them to switch rather than doing it instinctually to keep them all on a string. They just milk it. And Miami got so many easy looks last night, and they were just making them. And then Tyler Hero just went off. I mean, he was red hot. They couldn't do anything against him. And AD just looked completely checked out. LeBron got back to his, doing things offensively, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. And the thing that I struggling with, because I was on playback with Trevor Lane yesterday, the guy I work with, and I was like, they keep doing this high screen thing with AD, and he'll roll out and he'll go to the perimeter or roll in and get stopped immediately, and they just keep doing it. over and over and over again. And I'm like, there's no adjustment here. There's nothing. So it's like, as much as it's on AD, it's on JJ too, because he's not doing anything to change that obvious. Your best player is just standing around. And it's awful basketball because there's no, it doesn't work. Fix the damn thing. Don't keep trying to go back to the same thing because you're getting nothing. You're getting to a point where like that switch happens or the roll happens. And then there was one play where Max Christie was forced to just do something in the paint and he puts up this awful shot and it wasn't his fault. And I'm just like, dude, this is getting worse. They're not learning anything. And they seemed literally checked out. Like they're not listening to JJ if he's saying anything. And I feel as though he would because he's a fiery guy, right? He's probably really pissed. He's probably still in his basement at the moment, like, looking at the film over and over again. But it's just not good. It seems like the players are kind of fed up already, and it's December 5th. Like, dude.
It's like so early in the season.
Yeah. And they're going to go to a red hot, Atlanta team who I wouldn't be surprised beats them by 20. It would not shock me. At this point, I don't see any signs of life. I mean, AD scored in single digits last night. I think it was like 8 points or something. I don't think I've ever seen that from him, ever. He goes from this MVP-looking player to this guy who's non-existent on the basketball floor. It's like, I don't know what happened. I feel like at some point some switch got flipped back to off, right? And they're just coasting on, hopefully their talent is going to get them through it. And they don't have that much talent. LeBron has looked probably the worst he's looked since he's been in LA. He scored 27 or 29 last night, but it literally was just like stat pattern. It just didn't affect the game in any sense. It's just not good right now. It's just not good. It's all bad.
Yeah, from what you're saying, I think they still were talking about LeBron's, like, especially from 3, he hasn't been good at 2. And I think he was making it seem like, oh, this is just stretch. It's fine. And, I think that obviously, he's getting older, as we know. He said he's entering his last year or years, which would maybe be a max of another season.
Hopefully at this point.
So, I mean, it's something that obviously doesn't look great for you guys. But, in years past, the funniest thing in years past is that with the Hawks, they've kind of always, I've always said, been a team's get right game. And now this year with the way they're playing, it seems maybe that could be different. Obviously, there's more of an emphasis on the defensive end because last 2 years, let's be honest, Hawks could not defend. So, AD and LeBron probably could look at this as a get right game because it's not like anybody can defend them. I still have flashbacks of, like, I think a couple of years ago when we played you guys and we didn't have DeAndre Hunter. So we had DeJounte Murray guarding LeBron. And I was just like, this is terrible. But obviously that's changed. We've added Reece Shea. Jalen Johnson has emerged, is continuing to emerge as a nice young player in the game. Dyson Daniels has been a revelation for us from the Pelicans and those things. So we've provided different guys who can defend. And you can now throw multiple bodies at LeBron, D'Lo, even though we know he could be very up and down for you guys. So I think that's going to be interesting to see that wing matchup with the two teams and how they adjust. But obviously, one of the biggest matchups is going to be the bigs too, because, like I said, our biggest player is Clint Capella, which realistically AD should win that matchup. So that would have to be a group defensive effort to be able to defend him in that regard. Now, one thing that I think has been a bright spot for you guys, I think Dalton Knecht has been a guy who has provided some spark, some shooting, and everything like that. What have you seen from your rookie so far?
I love him. I think he's great. I think he's a finished product. I mean, defensively he's a liability, but in the NBA these days 80% of the guys are liabilities defensively, right? It's all about offense. He's a natural scorer. He's a great shooter. He's the best shooter on the team. I don't think there's any question about that. He's gotten cold lately, but I think it's because the whole team has been cold. There's been no flow. He hasn't gotten the open looks that he's used to. And even when he doesn't have the open looks, he's really good off the dribble. He can create his own shot. And he's sneaky athletic. You know, I mean, he can get to the rim and he can throw it down. So I think there's no. I mean, he is the lone bright spot at this point, and he hasn't done much the last couple of games. But like I said, it's just he hasn't really had the opportunity. He hasn't gotten the ball as much. The ball's not moving. It's like it was before. But I see it's the sad thing is it's gonna get wasted if they don't turn this thing around. Like he is, I mean, I'd say he's in the running for rookie of the year right now with Jared McCain and Philly, right? And I don't know if there's anybody else kind of really emerged this year. It's kind of a weak. I mean, your guy. Would you say your guy's in the running?
Yeah, I mean, he's about probably top 5. I mean, he's been pretty much top 5 in a lot of rookie rankings and a lot of statistics I've seen. He just hasn't. He's had like one like big game, which was the Knicks game like a month ago, but he hasn't like blew up the league, you know, like because the rookie class has been it's been okay. Like there's been some contributors, but nobody who's just like this guy's incredible.
It's kind of forgettable, right?
Yeah,
it's like it's going to be one of those years where people are going, "Who won Rookie of the Year again?" Don't really remember. It's not Wemby or Zion or you know, the Ja Morant types. It's just kind of like role player guys. But yeah, I love watching him. I think he's once he gets. That's one thing they've missed over the past few games is when that kid gets going, he provides this kind of energy, and it's not like he's not an energy guy, but when he locks in and he gets going, he gets everybody excited, right? The players, especially at home, the fans go crazy. It's pretty sad that he's the most exciting player on the team right now, and he's a first year player. But that's how good he is. He's just really good. I think he's got a high ceiling. I mean, the comp that came up initially that I was like, pump the brakes on that. But now I'm like, yeah, I can see it. Was Klay Thompson, right? Knecht can't play defense the way Klay played defense in his prime. So there's that big difference there. But I think he could match what Klay does offensively, right? Like he could shoot like Klay. I mean, Klay's one of the best shooters ever, and there's no question about that. And I don't know if Knecht can get there, but I'd say if you're going to compare him to anybody, it would be him, and which is amazing for the Lakers, especially since they couldn't sign Klay in free agency, right? So they're basically getting what Klay's probably providing for Dallas right now, right? But it just hasn't been as consistent the last 3 games, I think. And it's just because the team has just been awful. They just can't. There's no flow to the offense. So all his points are kind of coming off of cuts to the basket and stuff rather than just draining from outside, which he's used to.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he's been solid though. And I mean, like I said, those are things that, you know, you can say, all right, at least we have a young player that we can say, hey, he could be a part of what we want to be in the future past LeBron era. And we'll see what happens with AD and et cetera. Question though. Just because like I said, I haven't watched like a ton, but I've seen some Laker games. Do you guys need a center? Backup center?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I interest you in Clint Capella?
Right now? Yeah. Why not? Like, I mean, I know he's been linked to the Lakers for years, right? It's like him and Miles Turner were like every year it was like some trade rumor. But I think the ideal trade, if I could, the home run trade, in my opinion, and I've said this a few times, is Walker Kessler and Colin Sexton. If they can get those two guys in a package, then I think that would be not to the point where all of a sudden the Lakers are going to be, you know, title contenders, but they'll be considerably better in the backcourt and the front court because both those guys provide something that they don't have, you know, consistency in their play. You got a ball handler, and they're both young, you know, so it's not like these 1 year, 2 year fixes that they keep getting thrown out there like Jonas Valanciunas, Brook Lopez, the guy from Chicago. I always screw up his last name. Vujicic? Is it Vujicic? Nikola?
Vujicic?
Yeah, he's another guy. But they're all like in their 30s, right? Like they're early to mid 30s. They're the short-term fixes. I mean, if the Lakers are really going to give up assets, I'd say they should go for somebody like Kessler who could be on the team for the next 5 to 8 years, right? Like, do that. But then again, I don't know what the hell Pelinka is doing. or whether he even has what any assets that anybody wants outside of 2 first-round picks. What I seem to be getting the sense of is every trade talk they get in, the other team is like, give us your 2 first-round picks. And that's where we're going to start the conversation. Because there's nothing else attractive. D'Lo's not great. He is what he is. He's not going to get any better. If anything, he's going to fall off. And he's an expiring deal, so you got to move him. And I think opposing teams know that. They're just kind of in a really screwed up situation. There's not a lot of upside of what's going on right now, and I think Pelinka is really struggling. And the sad part is, ever since he made that Westbrook deal, I'm like, dude, this guy is no good. Get him out of here, right? Because he seems like a yes man for clutch sports, right? And not that savvy when it comes to making deals, right? The AD deal was great, right? But then you go and turn around after winning a title and make this bonehead trade for Westbrook that doesn't make any basketball sense. Anybody that knows basketball looked at that and went, what the hell are they doing? It was like a buddy deal. Oh, LeBron points at a guy, that's my buddy. Can you, I want to play with my buddy, and then it comes in and then it doesn't work. You're like, oh, surprise, and it was one of those deals where it's like, if it doesn't work, it's going to screw you up for years, not just that season. It's going to be like 5 years. And now they're feeling the after effect of it. And all the fans are freaking out because they're so used to the Lakers making a deal, right? And now the Lakers are terrified of the second apron on top of that. So
so that's understandable.
Yeah, I think it's changed the whole landscape, right? So so you got all these homegrown teams that are flourishing. Like, you'd even call Atlanta a homegrown team, right? You got all your guys are been drafted by the team. You got OKC, same thing, except for the exception of like Hartenstein and Caruso, right? And then we got Minnesota, even though Minnesota's kind of struggling, but Denver, it's teams like that where you're just like, oh, they drafted all their guys, right? That's the way to do it in the new NBA. And the Lakers aren't great at that. They're good at drafting these connect guys, these role players that play really well, but not cornerstone franchise guys, right? They tend to trade those guys before they can get to that level, like the Brandon Ingram, like the D'Lo, like Julius Randle, like all those guys out the door within a couple of years. That's what they do. They get these assets and then they package them for some prized superstar, AD being the perfect example. And they can't do that anymore. It's that doesn't work anymore. So now they're scrambling, and I don't know. The future looks pretty bleak, dude. I thought it was going to be not that bad the way they started the season. I'm like, okay, there's some promise here for this year. But I knew they were going to hit a wall at some point. It's just whether or not they're going to bounce back. And I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen because it feels like the morale is gone. It's crushed, right? And that, and you guys are probably going to kick their ass.
Listen,
I wouldn't be surprised. What's the spread right now? Do you know what the spread is?
Let me see what the spread is right now. It is
Can I guess before you even look at it? Or don't look at it and I'll guess.
What I'm looking on, there isn't a spread right now. Let me see. Let me look on something else.
If you go on ESPN and look at the game preview or the game cast, it should show you. Oh, that's weird. Oh no, I'm not gonna ruin it for myself, but
all right, I got a number. You want to guess?
Okay. I'm gonna guess Atlanta favored by 4.
I got 5.5.
Atlanta?
Wow. 5.5.
Wow. Dude, that shows you right there, man. That shows you right there.
Like it's
even
funny.
The odds makers are out. They're just like, oh no, we're not.
It's funny that you bring up the how teams are built thing, because I think that's, like you said, with the second apron, that has changed the game for a lot of teams. You could be Boston, just you won a championship, so I get you just saying screw it. We won a championship, so as far as I know, we pay it. We're still in championship contention.
But even then, the owner was like, I don't want to pay this tax bill. I'm selling the team. right?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, see,
So you got to be uber rich like Ballmer, right,
yeah,
to
because he'll pay
afford
it.
stuff like that. Yeah, he'll pay it, and it won't matter to him. But Jeannie Buss is like one of the poorest owners, right? I
So
would
she
say
probably
that.
doesn't want to pay that.
Yeah, hell no.
I know our
Um,
owner don't want to pay that. So that's we've been calling him for cheap for years. So, but at the same time, like I said, you got to kind of build your team differently through the draft, through some young players, believe in your coaching and development, which I have this feeling that that's kind of a thing that y'all are trying to do, which is why y'all haven't made certain moves with certain young players like Reeves, Rory, things like that. Because you're like, oh, maybe we can, get these guys elevated, get them on the same page, and then that will help the team around them. Because I mean, that's pretty much how you have to do things, like I said. And then even that's his own issue, because eventually, if guys really do work out, you got to pay them, and then you can't pay all of them. And we saw what Minnesota did; they traded Cat, and everybody was like, "Why did you trade Cat after coming off the West Conference Finals?" And now it looks like we don't even know if Minnesota's going to even get out of the first round, or just be a play-in team.
Yeah.
And so I think that just it definitely changes a lot of different things. And I think, luckily, like I said, the Hawks were in the first. We're like in like the first tier for the second tier, but even with it, just because Trey has his max deal, we just pay Jalen, and but we have some guys coming off the books as well. Because like I said, when I was mentioning earlier about can I introduce Click Pella, I also have Larry Nance if you wanted Larry Nance, and then I'll throw in Gary Bird, Garrison Matthews. That's what I got for you. I don't really have much else.
I love Larry Nance. I thought Larry Nance was great. Like I think he's the perfect kind of like glue guy / role player. He just does what he does, and he doesn't play outside of his game. I don't know how he's done for Atlanta. I'll be honest, I didn't even know he was in Atlanta because he's moved so much the last 3 or 4 years. I feel bad for him because he is a good player. He just can't find a long-term home.
Yeah, I mean, for us, the thing with us is when we made that trade with DeJounte to send to the Pelicans, we got him. Initially, when they reported, it was Larry Nance and like the picks, because the Pelicans had your first round pick and we got that pick. So we technically have your pick this year. So we need you guys to be bad. But and so we got him, and then we got Dyson. And so Larry's been interesting because Okongwu came back from injury, and so there were some back-to-backs he weren't playing, so he was playing in those games. When we had all those injuries to start the year, Larry Nance was playing. We played him at some 4 because, when I went to meet him, he's like, I played 4 the first 6-7 years in the league. I don't know why people think I can't play the 4 anymore. Like, that was literally my natural position. It's just some people prefer him as a backup center. He's undersized, but a stretch on it because he can hit the 3. For us, he's been hitting the 3 ball like 50-something% when he's played. So he's hitting it really well so far. He just hasn't played because Quinn is like, you really can't. People think Quinn should play him as like the backup 4, but I think Quinn wants to stick to a 9-man rotation, which is why he isn't. But he's been a great leader for us. He's definitely been a great leader in the locker room. Great glue guy. I know when I talked to the Pelicans guys, they were like, yeah, he's great in the locker room, great veteran. Just like you mentioned, just plays his role, knows how to play it the right way, does what he needs to do.
Yeah.
And so, so there's been debates when we were struggling before we went on the streak about should we trade Larry Nance to a team that actually, wants to use him. So but at the same time, there's a value to him being in Atlanta. So I don't know if that is something that the Hawks want to do because he is on an expiring contract. So it's not like he's here for long term. So maybe trade deadline. I could see some teams calling about Larry Nance and trying to see about, is it possible to get him off the team if he's not going to be a part of what we want to do. So, I mean, but like you mentioned too, with the Lakers, it's not like y'all have a lot. I mean, it feels like every time there's any type of discussion, it's D'Lo. Well, we don't want D'Lo. So it's like
nobody wants to though.
And then Reeves, it's like, it just isn't a great fit, I feel like. So it's like, it's not really anybody that we really are just like, we really want. So it'll be interesting to see if we do move Nance and stuff like that. So, but like I said too, like we have that first round pick from you guys. So, every time we play you guys, it's like, oh, it's a little bit more significance. If we beat them, it helps us out. Because if they all end up as a lottery team, you never know. Hawks get back in the lottery.
You never know, man. Like I mean, I didn't expect LeBron to just all of a sudden forget how to shoot, and then AD just like look kind of deflated after all the MVP talk. Like I just thought they were more motivated than this. But it's just a weird situation because every year, they come into the season and it's all this hype. It's just the way it is with the Lakers. It's like it's always, title contending aspirations. They got 2 stars that they're going to play around, but then it always ends up being the same exact result. It's like ever since LeBron got there outside of 2020, it's been the same damn thing. It's hovering around 500 and then making the play-in, and then getting bounced in the first round, or the real aberration is making the Western Conference Finals, right? And then getting swept by a real team, the Nuggets, because the competition wasn't great that year, and now it's like the West is a juggernaut. It's like you can't mess around anymore, or else you get creamed by these teams one after the other. It's the way it's been happening. So like the Lakers are like looking forward to playing teams on the East this year, because the East I don't remember it being this bad potentially ever, right? Like there's been stretches, but this year I was like, I remember looking at the standings at one point, and there was like 3 teams above 500, and I was like, oh my god! And then you look at the West, and there's 3 teams below 500. That's it. Like, wow. And then there's that talk about the NBA considering doing the getting rid of conferences altogether.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's kind of jumping the gun a little bit, right? Like, these things level out every
year. They do. But I mean, they talk about that expansion, everything under the sun. We are in Adam Silver's NBA, so all these things are on the table. But
right.
So let me ask you this though. So obviously you guys went through the Darvin Ham era. Obviously, very hilarious area on Twitter about that. It's a funny guy, even on the Bucks. But JJ's been there. I feel like JJ has had multiple press conferences where he's just been fired up. He'll leave. He's been very fiery, as you mentioned. He's been very just like,
He wears his emotions on his sleeve, right?
Yeah,
and he can get triggered by certain things. Like exactly. When we get blown out like this, I'm always looking forward to what he's going to say, because he might just lose it, right? He just might because he's an emotional, passionate, former player. So he's not far removed from playing. So he's still got that fire inside him.
Well, he made a great comment last night. He was just like, when he was talking about it, he was like, I can't call out defenses. I can't do this, and this. They have to, he's like, I'm not trying to blame them, but like they have to take some responsibility. So throughout the season, what have your impressions been of JJ Redick as a coach so far? I mean, he's a completely different approach from Darvin, and I'm assuming that's a good thing. But what have you seen from him? Because I remember even after the first game, Lakers fans were like, when I forgot who y'all played, I think it was Minnesota, right? Was it the first game? And I believe like when they would make a run, he called timeout, and it's like, oh my god, simple coaching. He's doing the simple things, right? And so, like, what has your impressions been of him? Because like, a lot of people I think are looking at and thinking, I mean, they may just have not given him a great roster to work with, but they're expecting him to make magic.
Well, that's the thing. It's always it's always expectations that can't be met by the Lakers, right? It's like, because when you got 17 banners hanging up there, like there's always going to be crazy expectations.
And the NBA Cup.
And the NBA Cup. Yeah. And the pressure, and just being in LA, the second biggest market in the country, it's just, there's so many things that come on top of it that it makes things unrealistic. And when I saw that he was going to get hired, I was just went like, oh my God. I was like, my first thought was LeBron's got to go, dude, because he's just pulling all the strings, and they're making moves that don't make any sense anymore. Getting him, drafting Bronny, bringing in the buddy system. It's like, this didn't work, dude. It didn't work before. Now you're going to do this. And it just felt like a money grab. Like they were just, hey, we'll milk the whole LeBron Bronny thing. And then, I think they didn't realize that people got sick of that narrative so fast. They're like, okay, that's cool. Done. Right. And then they just kept pushing it. And now he keeps getting called up, and he's hurt right now. But with JJ, what I thought was he's going to get to a point where he's going to have to make a choice, right? He's going to have to get on LeBron, right? And it's like this last stretch by LeBron, like missing 23s in a row and just being a turnover machine. Like, you got to make him accountable, dude. Yes, he's great. He's one of the greatest of all time and blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't give him an out for playing bad and consistently bad, right? You're the fall guy. dude. You're going to be the fall guy when this all goes, haywire. And it's going haywire currently. So at some point, you got to say, hey, look, dude, you're the leader. You need to lead by example and bring these guys up. I know LeBron, I guess, took a little bit of accountability, which he's not great at last night, saying, like, it's not the coach's fault, it's players. Well, like, duh, dude, right? But at the same time, you're not playing great. And JJ, I don't know what he was thinking taking this job. Like, this is not a first-time job for guys. Like, Darvin did the same thing in the last 2 years. You know what I mean? It'd be coaching. I think coaching in the NBA and just in professional sports in general is you got to be a little crazy, right? Because your lifespan as a coach for each team is like 3 years, right? I think somebody said that before the season. Like, ever since Phil Jackson, a coach in the LA, has only lasted 3 years tops, and this includes Vogel, who won a title. Darvin Ham went to the Western Conference Finals. It just does. The results have to be overwhelmingly positive. And when you come in the footsteps, you're trying to follow in the footsteps of Phil Jackson and Pat Riley and all these greats that are just like otherworldly. It's just an impossible thing to meet those standards, and I think he's gonna lose his mind pretty quick if this keeps going this way. Say you guys beat him tomorrow, and bad. Even if it's not, they have to win, because if they don't, it's just going to spiral out of control if it's not already. And I feel for the guy, but hey, look, that's what you signed up for, dude. If you didn't know this was coming, then you haven't been paying attention, right?
Yeah.
So I like him though. I like him more than I thought I was going to. I thought I was going to despise this guy, but I like him because he speaks his mind. He's clearly intelligent, and he's passionate. And then those are 3 things that are very hard to all put together and be successful as a coach. And he's still got a lot to prove. So right now he's still over 500, but that could not be the case come Christmas, So we'll see. So I'm team JJ for right now, but I want to see how he adjusts to all of this madness.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I know something about coaching madness, and I had to go through my coaching spiel from Lloyd Pierce to Stank McMillan, and now we're at Quinn Snyder right now, which, I mean, I know some people in Atlanta have been very indifferent about him just because of how things started. Obviously, I think that was also because of the roster clearly realizing, hey, you're probably ain't going to win enough games with DJ and Trey, which is why they made the move they made. Now we're here where we are. But I think, obviously things are coming around. And I think the one thing that's been impressive for us is the fact that we've been able to win while Trey hasn't necessarily had the Trey Young games that we're used to seeing, the 30 and 10. He's kind of giving you like 18 points, and then he'll give you like 12 assists, and like that's good enough to win. And the fact that we beat Cleveland twice back-to-back games and doing all that has really showed the progression of the team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But obviously, like I mentioned when we talked before, it was when we were in the midst of, what trade is the Lakers going to make this offseason that's going to be big? And obviously Trey was mentioned, DJ was mentioned. Do you just, with hindsight, do you look back and think, dang, I wish maybe we would have made a move, whether that was for one of the guards on the Hawks or anything like that? Is there anything like that where it's like, man, it would have been nice? Because like I said, I know D'Lo's been a very up and down player for you guys.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. I wish they did do something, but the real question is what was there to be had? And you're never going to really know, right? You're going to hear 10 different reports and 10 different takes and 10 different insiders and sources and stuff. And it's like, you never know. But what was on the table? What was there? What was there to be had? Because looking at it now, it's just like there's such a glaring hole in the front court. They can't out-rebound anybody. I mean, look at the game last night, and it was basically just AD, and he wasn't even given a lot of effort to crash the glass. And it's just, they're just a super flawed team right now, and there's so many missing pieces. But I say that center position or somebody to play alongside AD is the biggest, like glaring, like that needs to change, because I think it would really help the team out as a whole. Like I said, I don't think there's any move outside of getting a super duper star to play with these guys that could thrust them into the title contending conversation. But there's got to be something out there to do to make them better than what they are right now. And it's just whether or not that ever happens. If they go through the trade deadline without making a move, people in LA are going to riot. They're going to go insane because they're already like it was a boiling point last night. Like I saw a lot of guys, a lot of fans just kind of like, I'm done. Yeah. I'm out of this.
Yeah, I saw that too. They were crashing out on the timeline.
Oh yeah. They're just losing their minds, and they're justifiably so. Like in the beginning, whenever this stuff starts to happen, it's like it's kind of the way things go these days, right? Like people just immediately are like, oh, trade everybody, like, get this out of here. Like after one loss, they could have won 10 straight and they lose one game and it's like, oh, this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. But then when it starts going like in this kind of pattern, they literally lose their minds. They lose their minds. And I'm starting to like go, okay, yeah, you guys are justified. Yeah. This sucks. Like what do you can't say anything else. If they don't do anything, then it's like I gave the analogy, like it's like getting cut and you're just gushing blood, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't do anything to fix it. You just bleed out. You're just like, oh, I'll be all right. And it's just you just turn to white, and you're just gonna die. Yeah. Like that's what it feels like. It feels like the Lakers are just gushing blood, and Plank is not rushing around looking for a bandage or anything to sew it up.
Yeah, definitely saw a lot of Plinka hate for sure, man. For sure. That's not the Plinka stuff. Like, and that's what I think is, like I said, it's kind of funny because obviously it's LA, so media is different, just pressure is different. Like you said, largest city, and even it's funny, Atlanta's the top 7 market, but like it's not viewed from a sports perspective; it's viewed as a sports small market. And but
you're in football country, right? Like you're
in the South, it's mainly football country. But I think the Hawks, they had like a numbers of sheets. I think the Hawks have the lowest attendance per game so far this year, which I think that also just comes from what the team has been the last 2 years and how we started the season. And just, sometimes with teams, you got to show you something. Okay, now I'll buy tickets to the games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, it's funny because, like I said, I know Pelinka's been under a lot of heat. I know our guy, Landry Fields, former player, has been under a lot of heat for some of the decisions we made just because it's been like, are we competing? Are we not? Are we rebuilding? Are we not? Especially when you have a lot of young players like we do, like Kobe Buffkin, Zachary Richichet, Jalen Johnson, who looks to be taking that next step in his career, Kongwu, and guys like that. And you mix them in with some veterans like, a Bogdanovich, a Clint, and you kind of hope, and Nance, and you kind of hope that gets them over the top. But it's like I've always said, I can see what the vision is because you're trying to build a sustainable winner. Because I've always said the star model, like you mentioned earlier, it's just like back when the big three, you could just throw big threes together and be a championship contender, are gone. Like, you pretty much have to kind of really build out your team. I mean, the only other team who's really doing that is like the Suns, and I mean they look better with Mike, but I mean we'll have to see when playoff time comes around if that's actually sustainable. So I think that. And
I think KD just went down again, right?
Yeah, I think he got an ankle injury last night as well. So it's one of those things where I think, you're kind of seeing how different teams build their rosters throughout, especially the second apron era that we are in now. And obviously, everybody now will forever hate CJ McCollum. But it's one of those things where, if it ends up paying off for the Hawks, then this is something good. Obviously, we have our big matchup next Wednesday against the Knicks in the knockout run of the NBA Cup. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of barking. I'll be tuned in, seated primetime. But, I think for us, it's really right now trying to gain that respect around the league and trying to show like, hey, we are a good team. We aren't a bad team. Like a lot of people have compared us to Indiana from last year, like when they made their run in the NBA Cup. And they made it, and they played you guys, and everybody was like, "Oh, Indiana might be a good team." And then they made the finals.
That could happen if you guys are successful there in Vegas. Then, because you're playing in Vegas, right?
Like, so first it's the knockout round, so we got to go to New York first, play Madison Square Garden.
Oh, okay.
And if we win that game, then the final 4 teams will go to Vegas.
Gotcha.
So if we win that game, then we'll go to Vegas. And like I said, we only have like 2 true primetime games this year because I don't count NBA TV as a primetime game because not everybody has NBA TV in their package. So it's not really.
That's true. Yeah, it's true.
So this is now adding a primetime game for us. And I'm really excited for guys like Dyson and just Dalton and Zach and those guys to get like that national exposure.
Right.
That's important, you know what I'm saying? Because that's part of the game, marketing, things like that. So we're like, you guys, regardless if you guys are going to be up and down, you're getting like 30 primetime games a year because you're Lakers. So it actually makes it worse because if you are bad, it's like, well, the whole country going to see it.
Yeah. And then you got Barkley saying, I don't know why the Lakers are on. I don't know.
Exactly.
Why watch the Lakers? They're terrible.
Listen, y'all lucky Skip Bayless out of a job right now.
Seriously. Well, he's still tweeting.
He's tweeting. Nobody paying shit. Just get
That's
Twitter.
True. I never paid attention to him regardless. I think that guy's at the lunch. So, but that's a good comp though, Indiana. That makes a lot of sense. Like if you guys go on a run like that, a lot of people are going to be talking about the Hawks. Yeah. I mean, I already noticed it, and I was like, and then I saw that you guys were on the schedule next, and then you hit me up, and I was like, damn, this could be a bad game for them too. It's like this is not an easy win at all, right? You guys should kick us while we're down. That should be the mentality, right? Just go in thinking that you're going to get a tough game, but there's a chance you can blow them out.
Yeah, and we're playing in our city edition. I don't know if you've seen those. If you've seen what our city edition uniforms look like.
I can't keep up with these New Jerseys anymore, man. It's like
they're kind of. I don't know if you remember last year's. They're kind of like the blue.
Yeah, okay.
But this one's more like blue and black,
ATL, right?
No, yeah, it did say ATL on it. Because last year's was ATL.
Okay.
This one is like
it's like one like Atlanta in cursive, right? Something like that across the
chest. Yeah.
It's like a black jersey.
Yeah, but like it's mainly blue, but there's like more black on the trim. So like because it's trying to connect the jersey to the shorts through the black and then go blue again on the shorts. So it's kind of like the same color scheme, but just a little bit different. And then it's just our whatever the hashtag is for lift as we fly, whatever. It's just whatever goes with a hawk. Do you like your city editions?
This year, yeah, kind of. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm not, but I thought the concept of it, with the pictures and stuff, was cooler than when I saw it on the floor. I thought the floor that they do for that is dope. The big LA, right? I thought that, and the lake show on the sides. I thought that was cool. But, I'm not a huge fan of all these alternate jerseys. There haven't been any that the Mamba ones were cool. That was cool.
I remember those.
But I think that's the last time I was like, oh, that's dope. Like I would buy that kind of thing. Now I'm just like, yeah, they try too hard, And then they put all funky colors in there. Yeah. It's just I don't know. It just a lot of the times I go like, who approved this? Like how many eyes got to look at this before it got the the thumbs up? Yeah, like I don't know how much effort they put into it. Or
they'll put a color in there that doesn't work with your team.
We'll throw it out there and then we'll have somebody say it looks really cool, right? Like some celebrity or something to get it trending. And it's like, it's not really cool, dude. It doesn't look that good.
Exactly. All right. One last question before I let you go, man. So if you guys were to turn it around, what is the couple of things, one thing that the Lakers need to do if they are going to try to turn it around and win in Atlanta?
In Atlanta?
Yeah.
Defense is probably number one. Trying to figure out how to stop Trey. I think Trey's going to have a field day tomorrow, especially if Reeves can't play because he's been like day to day ever since he landed on his back a couple games ago. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play. But, yeah. And then stopping your bigs because I think you got a lot more big bodies than we do. And Coloco's not cutting it. That kid's he's too skinny. He can't hang with guys with some meat on their bones, Like Bam did whatever the hell he wanted to do yesterday, and I wouldn't be surprised if your bigs do the same thing. So Capella could have a big game. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And your rookie. I'm not looking forward to it. Put it that way, dude. I'm really not, because I'm just waiting for this more of this aftermath. Like, I think they just need to get home. They don't play well on the road this year. At all.
That East Coast trip y'all got going on right now.
Right. Yeah, and it's just getting worse. So and then the fact that you said it was 5, the spread's 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's more than I thought. I'm like, so that means the odds makers are out on the Lakers. They see a sinking ship, so they're not going to give them any kind of leeway anymore. So that's not a good sign either, dude. It's really not. Because Vegas always hits it, man. Yeah. They're on it. So it'll be probably an entertaining first half, I would think. But then I think you can see you guys pulling away.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we have games where we'll play really well, and we'll have games where we're kind of make it like closer than maybe what some people think it should be. Because like I said, we're still a young team, so it's like the biggest thing with young teams is just consistency. Because that can just be the biggest thing for us. I mean, biggest thing for us is just maintaining our defense like we've been able to. We lose a lot of games from the 3-point line. That is one thing we are not great at unless we just get guys hot for the game. So if you guys hit some threes, you could definitely win some points there at the 3-point line. That's what a lot of teams have to do against us. But we're usually able to attack the paint and score a lot. So we'll have to see.
That's where your butter is going to get bread, or the other way around.
Yeah, and so
your butter is going to get bread.
Could present a potential big possibility for Jalen Johnson tomorrow to have a big game, especially him, because he'll attack downhill and things of that nature. And then obviously, like I said, just not turning the ball over, because sometimes we'll get ourselves in trouble because we have some games where we'll just be sloppy, and then just turnovers create easy opportunities and easy looks. So I mean, at the end of the day, even though LeBron ain't spry like he used to be, I mean, you don't want him in the fast break still. So. Yeah, I think those are some things that we need to do to be able to get the win tomorrow and try to extend this streak out because then we have Denver coming in on Sunday. So before then going to New York for the play-in game, play NBA Cup game. So
these are pretty important games for you guys then.
Yeah. We actually have a tough schedule coming up. So we're not playing like the best teams in the conferences, but like we're playing like especially in the West, like we're playing the playoff teams and we're playing some decent teams in the East. So like, this will be a good stretch for us to kind of really show, are we really for real? Is this really okay, the Hawks are kind of arriving, or is this kind of like, they're just having a good stretch right now? And, maybe, some people say come back to earth, so obviously it's exciting. Obviously when the Hawks win, it's great for podcast traffic. So I'm not complaining at all, but, because I always say when you win, everybody wants to listen to your podcast. When they lose, it's like, unless you love it, hearing the hatred about your team. But then people can just do that in Twitter Spaces.
That's true.
That's when you get those memorable quotes coming out of Twitter Spaces. So, but like I said, if this continues for you guys, we may be getting some Darvin Ham level spaces from guys of just crashing out every other game about what's going on. And, never forget, man, at least you don't have to hear, go hard on them dudes. Playing the game the right way. Salute. Motivation, man. Motivation. So, but yeah, right. Like I said, man, I appreciate you coming on for sure, man. Let people know where they can find you in your show.
Well, I'm on every platform now, and it's all the same tag. It's Ryan Ward, LA, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, because I don't use that much. I'm spacing it. Those are the main ones. Those are the main ones I use. I'm trying to get YouTube going, like crazy, because I know that's where it's at. So, and then Blue Sky. I just jumped on there. I don't know if you're on that one yet.
I literally just got on there. It's one of those things where I feel like you go through some people say with Twitter, you get on there, don't use it for a while, then come back, and it's like, all right, let me really start getting.
Yeah, it's like Threads, right? It's
basically
people compare it to
more, I guess, Twitter-ish. I guess.
It's basically a carbon copy.
Yeah,
it's not much different.
Twitter did it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it though. It's not bad. It seems people seem to be liking it. They're just acting like it's like the angel and the devil, right? Like the Blue Sky is a nice angel and the Twitter is the devil, or X, or whatever they're calling it now. But
yes, sir. They said I have to get away from Elon.
Yeah, it's complete exodus from that. But I don't think it's as so many people have gone over there. It's like,
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot, but it's not been enough to shut that whole thing down. Like, you still got to do your Twitter thing, But
All right, man, you never know. If I can become big and famous like you, man, maybe I can start getting paid on there or something.
I wish I got paid on X. That'd be nice. You got to have like 300 or 3 million impressions over the last 30 days or something like that. Is it 3 months?
It's the last 3 months, which
realistically
that is tough unless you're having viral posts every time you tweet.
Well, and then you tell the guys that feel like they got to say every thought that comes into their head to go on there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, even that, or engagement farming.
Yeah, I can't do that stuff. I'm not wired that way.
Yeah,
so it's not in me. Like whatever. I'd rather do a video or a podcast on it.
Yeah. So, but that is life. Is people can see in the sports media world for some of us. So, but we get through, man. But like I said, man, I appreciate you. Obviously, you guys, y'all know to find me, Bryce_2K, across all social media platforms. Believe in Hawks is available on any podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, wherever you like to enjoy your podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely subscribe to the channel, like the video as well. Also, find my guy Ryan, support his content. If you're just a basketball fan and you love basketball pods, obviously I expect some Laker fans to watch this as well. So definitely, always good to expand out to other horizons, man. Have discussions about other teams because I try to keep up with other things that are happening in the league and everything like that. But like I said, Ryan, I appreciate you, man. Obviously, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Be interesting. You guys know I'll be back for a post game recap after that game, and we'll see if we're extending the streak or we're talking about having to try to start a new one. So, like I said, I'm Bryce. That's Ryan. It's your Believe in Hawks episode. We'll see you next time.